All right, we will go on to our next talk, which is Walter Rahmer, CatSat post-launch operations of a student-built CubeSat.
There you go. Hi, my name is Walter Rahmer. I'm a first-year PhD at College of Optical Sciences and the command system lead for CatSat. So I'm the person who Hilly forwards all of his complaints to. As you saw, Hilly just presented about the X-band downlink for CatSat. Now I'm here to present to you about the status and updates for the rest of the mission. So I did present about this mission last year, if anyone remembers, but just for the people who don't, here's a quick little overview of the mission. So for starters, this is the first student-led satellite mission at the University of Arizona since 2006. And I really want to stress that this is a student-led and student-built and student-operated satellite. I started on this project as a sophomore in the undergrad program, and I've been working on it ever since. And most of the team members, almost all the team members who work regularly on the spacecraft are or were students at one point working on this mission. So it's been an incredible experience to learn and operate and really actually get, you can't get more hands-on than actually putting these screws that did not fall out during vibrational testing. And the actual mission of the CubeSat itself is, I like to think there's 4 parts. There's a technology demonstration, that's sort of like the headline item, demonstrating this inflatable antenna right here. Oh, I guess the laser doesn't really work. So this is a partnership with Freefall Aerospace here in town to demonstrate a deployable spherical reflector antenna that deploys through an inflation process. We also have an Earth science mission, and that's specifically on the other end of the spacecraft. You might see a long little tail. That's a 2-foot whip antenna to measure whisper propagation and HF radio propagation to basically determine the distribution and movement of charges in the ionosphere of the Earth. We also have an Earth imaging mission. We've got some cameras on board, 2 low resolution metrology cameras and 1 higher resolution black and white HD camera. And again, the 4th part of the mission is the education. It's a really important part that we always try to stress, that this is a really important educational experience for everyone involved. Now, the headline item, of course, is the inflatable antenna. So this is the first in-flight spaceflight demonstration of this technology. Freefall has demonstrated this inflatable system on a high altitude balloon before, but never in orbit. And as Hilly mentioned, we've been operating off of our patch antenna, our 10 gigahertz patch antenna. But with this inflatable, we're planning on demonstrating 10 times higher data rate, I believe, than what you get from this patch. Here's what it looked like in the clean room. You can see on the left here, that's sort of like the canister that holds the membrane inside. It's sort of held in place by all those trap doors. This is it in its sort of mounting frame with the sort of pistons that sort of the spring-loaded system that sort of releases it from the spacecraft. And then on the right there, that's the actual, you can see the top of the component sitting in the corner of the spacecraft. So the rest of this chassis is behind those solar panels right there. Here's a video that we like to show from our testing in the thermal vacuum chamber. So this is the trapdoors have opened and the membrane is released. And then this is actually a 2 times slowed down video. There it goes. We're inflating against the vacuum of space, which means that the tiniest bit of gas goes a really long way. It actually allows us to have just a small canisters of pressurized gas about that big and keep this balloon inflated for the entire duration of the mission. Now, communicating, Hilly went over a lot of the X-band communication, but for communicating and operations of this mission, we've been operating our primary command and control link is over UHF at 437.185 megahertz. We've got 2 stations for that. Our primary is off campus at a private residence, sort of on the east side of town. And then we also have a secondary station here on campus on the roof of the ARB. If you've ever driven sort of on Speedway and looked north, you might see our antenna on the roof of the ARB. It's an 18-foot Yagi. For you just saw Hilly's presentation on the X-band downlink. That's at the UA Tech Park using a 6.1 meter dish repurposed from the decommissioned Karma array, which was in Owens Valley, California. Now, just to give you a sense of our operations, how we planned it from the beginning, we start with launch. That occurred a while back. Then the plan has always been to deploy the solar panels, UHF antennas, do health checks, get our first pictures from the metrology cameras, get HD images from the HD camera, deploy our HF antenna, do HF experiments, and then finally deploy the inflatable. And we always leave the plan to leave the inflatable for last because it's a bit like opening a pulling a ripcord in orbit. It massively increases our drag profile and massively reduces our mission lifetime. So we leave it towards the very end. Now, this is where we get to the fun part of the story because, oh my goodness, a lot has happened since my last presentation here. So first off, we launched. On July 3rd, 9:04 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, we launched on board Firefly Alpha's Noise of Summer mission out of Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. And we actually got to see the spacecraft, the rocket from Tucson. We had our little watch party in the College of Optical Sciences, and we ran out to the mall and we saw it over Old Main. It was actually a really incredible experience. A lot of other people saw it though. This is the official, on the left is the official picture from the launch provider showing sort of like a long exposure. And some friends of mine saw it from the Grand Canyon. And because they were in a really dark site, they managed to see sort of like some colors in the exhaust. Now, the thing is, the launch went successfully, and because it's one of these new space companies, they had a live stream where we could see all the deployments, and they announced the deployment time, and you'd see a door pop open, and you see the satellite get kicked out. But during the launch, all of the 8 vehicle spacecraft on board, all 7 received successful deployment confirmations, and one of them did not, and that one of them was us. Based on conversations that started immediately afterwards with our launch provider, it became apparent that they sent the command to deploy our spacecraft, but they couldn't confirm our deployment. And based on data from the launch provider and then following reports from of objects resulting from the launch by the Space Force, it was apparent that the dispenser had jammed. The door was stuck, and we were trapped inside the dispenser. And so that was a bit of a shock and a lot to process. And what complicated things even more was that 2 weeks later, after we'd already sort of started, spooling down our operations because it'd been 2 weeks, and we'd been tracking all the objects resulting from the launch, and other satellites were popping up, and we weren't. Suddenly, out of the blue, a ground station in the Netherlands was tracking the launch vehicle and picked up a signal at our frequency that our electrical engineer at the time managed to pull and parse through our data processing system, and it parsed out correctly, saying that the spacecraft was alive, the batteries were charging, and it was attempting to detumble, and it was alive. So the first question is, how? To this day, we still do not have a clear answer, and I don't think we ever will. My current theory is ghosts. So this was, it was first picked up in the Netherlands, and then it got picked up in Indonesia, and then got picked up all over the world. We're participating in SatNogs, which is a worldwide network of ground stations. And then the next day after this, the team managed to get a response from the spacecraft from our station on at the university. I'm glossing over a whole lot of details, and I would strongly encourage, if you're interested, come talk to me afterwards. I can give you the whole story, and you could probably make a movie out of it, a Hallmark movie out of it. It's insane. But now we actually had a job to do. We had a spacecraft to fly somehow, and so we started getting to work. August 2nd, we received the first pictures from the metrology cameras. Here's the first image taken. And this is the first image that actually came out pretty well. This is, you can see sort of like the body of water. There's the Sea of Cortez, north is down to the bottom left. September 15th, we tested our first, we did our first X-band downlink. October 16th, we got our pointing system actually got qualified to the point where we could actually like do good X-band downlinks. August 18th, we started commissioning our HF antenna. January 9th, we got our first detailed HD camera image. So this is a black and white HD camera image right there. You can see sort of some details in the clouds, and there's some mountains below there as well. That HD image sequence is actually part of an image sequence. So here you can see it's about, I believe it's about 20 seconds of images as the spacecraft flies over the Andes mountain range in South America. So where are we at now? What's our current mission status? Well, as Hilly mentioned, we're experiencing issues consistent with damage to the -z face of the spacecraft. Our command and control link is extremely weak. We are operating on 2400 baud, which, if you don't know what that means, that is 40 times slower than dial-up. So that's why it takes so long to get data down. Our HF antenna has failed to deploy. That was also on the -z side of the spacecraft. We've attempted for many months to deploy this antenna, but the system is not responding, and there's been no change in the signal from the stowed configuration. So we've been forced to discontinue operations of regular operations of that. This is likely related to the unexpected high velocity ejection. When we first detected our signal, we did some math and figured out that we must have ejected from the second stage at about 85 miles an hour. Again, probably ghosts. But on the good side, we've been regularly conducting X-band downlinks and getting a lot of data down, as Hilly was talking about. This is 5 gigahertz linear transponder mode in progress. Actually, just this morning, we demonstrated that linear transponder, and it worked on the first try, which is kind of surprising for this mission. And finally, our inflatable antenna deployment is planned for mid to late April. That we're actually planning on starting that process next week. It'll probably take a while because there's a lot to do for it, but we're hoping to get some results from that soon. And I always just like to finish off with these amazing image sequences, and partially because I think they're pretty, partially because I wrote some of the code for these things. And this one's actually the first image sequence that we got down over the X-band system. That was a real, took some real creativity to get that working. All right.
Excellent work. Very fascinating. One question is, are you able to determine where orbital parameters from the ephemeris, and can that give you some clue on how you deploy it?
Yeah, so the question was if we could determine our orbit from our measurements of the spacecraft and get some information about our deployment from that. And the answer is yes. That was one of the first things we did once we got that data, the first sort of like radio signals. The team that tracked was tracking the second stage and picked up our signal was incorrectly de-Dopplered. And so by measuring how incorrectly it was, we could tell that we were in a slightly separated orbit. And then with some help from the folks over at Rincon, we back propagated that orbit to figure out where the coincidence point was. And we figured out that we must have deployed a few hours before that detection over Kazakhstan. And that's where we know that we ejected at about 85 miles an hour. Don't know how that happened either.
Thermal configuration changed by probably unjammed it, I guess.
That's a theory that we've that could explain the deployment, but then it leaves open the question of the velocity.
Any other questions?
What gas do you use to inflate the antenna?
Great question. The question was, what gas do we use to inflate the antenna? And the answer is, it's a mix of helium and argon. They're noble gases that don't interfere with don't have a chance of precipitating on the surface and don't really interfere with the signal.
All right. Thank you very much.